Buddy, if you got on Facebook today and found out that you had been friends with somebody for 46 years, you are not alone. It happened to quite a few people, and it's an interesting bug that I'd like to shed a little light on because I think it's pretty interesting. First off, before we get into the bug, let's talk about how we keep track of dates. Now, we keep track of dates by January 1st, 1 AD. And so we say if something is in front of that, then it's AD, and if it's before that, then it's BC. And we keep track of things that way. Well, computers do something similarly. However, they use January 1st, 1970, which just happens to be 1 day short of 46 years. Now you start to get an idea of what's going on here. Here I've got a little program running, and it's counting the number of milliseconds since the time, the midnight, January 1st, 1970. And it just keeps counting. That's how your computer keeps track of time. And any dates and stuff that you see, so for example down here it says 12, 13, 15, it just does some math on this number here to figure out what the actual time is. Well, why is it today on New Year's Eve and not on New Year's Day itself? Well, some time ago, Facebook decided, you know what, we need to start keeping track of everybody's info a little better. We need to keep track of when people became friends with each other. And so they said, okay, when we save that number, we're going to save this number, the number of milliseconds since 1970, and we're going to save that number to say this is when they became friends. But the problem is, not everybody became friends after they did that. Some people became friends before they started keeping track of this number. So they had to do something. They had to save a number they could ignore. Now you could save something like 0, but 0 is, of course, January 1st, 1970, and that wouldn't work. So let's save a minus number. And we could do something like, say, if it's a minus number, we'll ignore it. Great. That thing goes away. Some years later, they decide to say, you know, let's show people how long they've been friends with other people on Facebook. And they probably forgot about this. Most people don't have this -1 as their friend start date. Most people actually have a real date. So they went ahead and they implemented the code, and all year long it worked fine. Well, -1 becomes December 31st, 1969, which is 46 years ago. So when today hit, Christmas Eve, everybody who had become friends before they started keeping track of that, that -1, that probably caused some interesting things to go on, and so that's what happened. And so one of the things that I learned today, even while working on this, is something like if we test the Boolean of 0, that actually comes out as false, but if we test the Boolean of -1, that equals true in some languages. So they're probably using a language where -1 equals true, and they just assumed that it equals false. So that's what's going on. You were friends beforehand, and it saved it as a minus, and they forgot to test for that little thing, and it worked all year long until this happened, and everyone became friends 46 years ago.